Larys did Summerhall. The tragedy at Summerhall was a fire at Summerhall, a pleasure castle of House Targaryen in the Dornish Marches in 259 AC. The conflagration caused the deaths of, among others, King Aegon V Targaryen, his eldest son, Prince Duncan Targaryen, the Ser Duncan the Tall, the Lord Commander of the Kingsguard. The cause of the fire is yet unknown, but was connected with King Aegon's desire to restore dragons to the Seven Kingdoms. The last years of his reign were consumed by a search for ancient lore about the dragon breeding of Valyria, and it is said that Aegon commissioned journeys to places as far away as Asshai with the hopes of finding texts and knowledge that had not been preserved in Westeros. In 259 AC, Aegon summoned many of those closest to him to Summerhall to celebrate the impending birth of his first great-grandchild to Aerys and Rhaella, the children of Aegon's heir, Prince Jaehaerys. Many died, and fire destroyed the castle, leaving it a ruin. According to Barristan Selmy, sorcery was even involved. Now, this is where it gets crazy. Tons of theories have sprouted from Summerhall's tragedy, but none more sensational than the theory that Larys Strong is responsible for the tragedy at Summerhall. The idea that Larys is a warg and using rats around the Red Keep has spiraled into people believing that he might also be connected to the weirwood network. By the end of the House of the Dragon television show, his signature murder plot for his own family using fire and then attempting a hit on Mysaria by burning down her buildings are consistent with the fire tragedy at Summerhall. Could it be at the end of House of the Dragon, Larys' disdain for the Targaryens lead him to entering the weirwoods network and being able to travel to the future in time, the opportune time, to stop the Targaryens from returning to their pre-Dance of the Dragon power levels with big, youthful, capable dragons?
I was trying to find it over here because when we first announced this one and we said it was the most ridiculous thing we'd ever heard, I was like, I agree 100%. But the actor just spoke at that Game of Thrones convention, and I'm trying to find the quote, but he spoke a little bit about like Larys actually having magic, like one of the questions asked, and he kind of hinted to the possibility of it. He didn't flat out say it. Of course, then he went on a big rant about feet fetish. But so I'm not saying that Larys has any sort of magical abilities, but the actor has sort of alluded to the idea that he might. Now, does it have anything to do that he could participate in some event that takes place years later?
He would literally have to travel like decades,
In
centuries, in time to get to this point in history. And I just don't think so. I don't see it. And also, like, so we've seen the ability for Bran. And by the way, again, we didn't make this up. There are people online who believe this is a theory.
Oh, there's the lot.
This one's popular. But we've seen Bran be able to like see back in history and kind of manipulate events like by whispering into the wind. This is straight up embodying, you know what I mean? Now maybe Larys ends up being Blood Raven. I just don't see how it works. I mean, we're talking about time traveling with your body going in forward. Like, just because Summerhall is obviously tied to the Targaryens and it ends in fire, someone was like, well, Larys used fire twice and he's around the Targaryens. Maybe he takes Alicent's pledge like all the way to the future. It's just so outlandish.
Maybe feet are his he sees feet, and that sort of awakens his magical abilities,
and he's able to just walk his way into the future.
Maybe. Well, if he can warg into rats, could he warg into something that could live long enough to cause him to be able to influence the events at Summerhall,
like a weirwood tree? Which, by the way, still doesn't make any sense because weirwoods don't grow indoors.
Right. Could he now see he could have something to do with. See, this is weird. So Summerhall, I don't think so. I just don't see any way he's involved in Summerhall. Harrenhal and its sort of curse and building and helping to absolutely, because Harrenhal is completely a cursed location.
Yeah, I mean, it is cursed and anything can happen.
Absolutely. And he's one of the key contributors to something that happens there. He may reawaken evil spirits. Could those spirits then travel to Summerhall. Again, guys, we're stretching it here. Okay, this is the deepest, darkest parts of the iceberg.
I'm stretched about as far as it gets. I just don't. There's no way. There's literally no way. And the fact that like someone like posted this online and then multiple people were like, you know what? I'm in.
Let me think about this for a second. What happens to his foot?
How does
Do
he
we
become a
know?
clubfoot? Do you think he tripped over the weirwood branch?
No. At the end, he's beheaded by Cregan Stark, but he asked for one thing, and that's his foot is cut off. That way, he's like, although his head's cut off too, so I don't know, whatever. But he just wants his foot to be destroyed. Does it say what happens to it? I don't think it does.
Did they feed it to one of the weirwood faces? This
No, but
Allison.
could the bones of his foot have made it to Summerhall?
What?
Is there a curse that travels with his foot?
The curse of the web toes.
We've added a deeper portion of the iceberg. Larys's foot is responsible for Summerhall.
I'm gonna throw out the I'm calling to the banners here. If you are listening and you have any idea how this could work, send us a raven. Plug the email address, Matt, because I forget it right now. btkcast@gmail.com.
Hold on a second.
Okay.
Here we go.
All right.
It's from Fire and Blood.
All right.
And of course, the wiki. Says Larys Strong's corpse was given to the Silent Sister, and years later, his bones were taken to Harrenhal as his final resting place. Okay. Cregan Stark ordered that the removed foot be buried in a field, but the limb disappeared before that could occur. As Larys was the last of his line, his death brought an end to House Strong.
Where is the foot, Matt?
What if the foot was buried in the field where Summerhall is built?
Oh my god!
Because I think Summerhall is pretty new, right? I'm gonna go check it out.
Yeah, well, it's the pleasure paradise, right? Like that's the whole idea.
Right. Summerhall. I mean, look up when it's built.
Pleasure
Founded in 188 AC. So it's founded during House.
It's like 71 years before
right.
Before it gets burnt down.
So it exists. But who knows? Where'd the foot go? Could it have been taken to Summerhall?
Does anyone know where Larys's foot ended up? That seems significant.
Also, what's the deal with the Silent Sisters? And they just carry bones around Westeros because they have Ned Stark's bones. Yeah, and we don't know where they're at.
I think I trust.
In A Song of Ice and Fire, they still have Ned Stark's bones. They're supposed to be taking them back to Winterfell.
The Silent Sisters, also referred as the Stranger's Wives, Death's Handmaidens, and the Handmaidens of the Stranger, are an order of women belonging to the Faith of the Seven. They are sworn to the service of the Stranger and have taken vows of chastity and silence. The Silent Sisters attend to the dead. They are not to be confused with septas.
Yeah.
It doesn't give us much, does it?
It does not, but it's all interesting. Well, that is the end of our iceberg, Jimmy. 3-parter.
4 tiers, 3 parts. We did it.
Are there even deeper, darker parts to this iceberg that will occur in the off season as we go into House of the Dragon? Yes, House of the Dragon season 2. There's been interviews. There actually was an interview with Larys, the actor who plays Larys, and he talked about his sort of foot fetish with Alicent and why he's doing it. And it sort of goes back to what we were talking about with control and things like that. But I think we'll get more info about it. And they are, as of our recording, I think they're supposed to be done casting I think by the end of the new year. So, and production's supposed to start early 2023, which I think I'm going to release this on New Year's Day. So yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, a lot of good stuff came out of this first season. I mean, a lot of crazy stuff.
So let's just look back at the iceberg here. Which 2? Of course, you could pick one from tier 1 or something like that. But which theory was your favorite, or the one you found the most intriguing? It doesn't necessarily have to be the one that you believe most, but the one that you sort of just, wow, really cause you to think, wonder.
So I really like Viserys dreaming the dinner scene in episode 8 because I think that would be a really creative way of using perspective. Like I think that's just a really fascinating device to use as a storyteller. I think that would be awesome if it were true. Um, Other than that, I I mean, I like Danny not bringing a King's Landing just because it's hilariously offensive. I'm gonna like it makes a lot of people upset, and I think that it's slightly funny. I think honestly, Daemon being Blood Raven is definitely one that I don't necessarily think is going to come true, but I like it.
Yeah, mine is similar. I think the one I really like Aemond is the father of the children,
Mm-hmm.
just because it really would add a lot of significance to basically House of the Dragon's Red Wedding scene.
Yeah,
Which, in all honesty, the way that I think they could make it even more. To me, it's even more heartbreaking than the Red Wedding. It's seriously blood
it's
and
pretty bad.
cheese,
Yeah,
and of course, we're in complete spoiler territory here, which we've said at the beginning of the show. Especially because of now that we've seen Helena Targaryen and she's sort of so sweet and so nice,
mm-hmm.
it makes it just would it's gonna make that scene even more sort of heartbreaking because now it'll feel like it was Aemon's fault, and it could be really the thing because Aemon, I think, still has this sort of love of Daemon or something where he sort of admires him, and
Yeah.
this could be the thing that pushes them over the edge, which could make their final battle great and be another thing that's will begin to rip Daemon and Rhaenyra apart
Yeah.
because Rhaenyra, this doesn't seem like something she's going to want to do, and Daemon seems like he's just going to do it without her consent.
Yeah, it's gonna be brutal, and I do think that because the characters are more fleshed out in the show than they are in Fire and Blood, that it's gonna have even more impact. Like reading it in Fire and Blood, you're like, that's crazy, and it
Right.
is tense enough in the book to where, like, I think I mean, I had an emotional reaction to it as a very visceral reaction because it is just a tragic thing to go through for anybody. But now that the characters have a lot more behind them, it's going to be really emotional for a national audience, I think. So if you throw this on top of it, it makes it
Right.
even more dramatic.
And we've talked about how they're going to do it, and I still say the way I would do it is I would sort of do like the camera facing Helena's eyes,
Yeah,
right? And you just makes it even more gut wrenching. I think it will be more impactful than the Red Wedding because the Red Wedding was really just all of our favorite characters died. And you're just like, what? It's like a huge shift, but it was like, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. This is just like downright evil.
yeah, it's
I mean,
pretty.
there's just no way around it.
Yeah, it's pretty ruthless. I think the Red Wedding is very iconic because you really hadn't seen anything happen in the fantasy genre to that level. And you could even point to like if we go into television, like away from the book, in television, not many shows, if any, at that point had killed off like a third, almost like
Right.
40% of their cast. I mean, it was crazy. I mean, for the main characters. So I do think like the Red Wedding stays extremely notable for its place in history, especially in the fantasy genre and books. But this you don't see coming because it's just diabolical. There's
Yeah.
not there. Rob makes a lot of really bad mistakes, and when you look at the way it all turns out, you can see how it got there. But with Blood and Cheese, it's just one mishap after the next in House of the Dragon of miscommunications and people saying the wrong thing at the wrong time or being too proud. And then this is like an escalation rather than like in the Red Wedding where it's actually almost a de-escalation because it ends the war, right? This
Right.
actually makes the war worse in House of the
Right.
Dragon. So it's interesting because there were really pivotal moments in the Song of Ice and Fire lore, but they actually are kind of polar opposites in what happens after.
Yeah. Yeah. It's gonna be huge. So the other one I sort of had that I find really interesting was Bran is watching through the weirwoods.
Yeah.
And it's just because whether the real thing is if Bran actually does something to influence
Mm-hmm.
an event. Like even you go back to the scene of the Tower of Joy where Ned Stark sort of turns as if he heard something. Like even something that small means Bran still influenced it.
Yeah, it does.
You know,
Does
somehow.
the dagger? Here's my theory: is that the dagger ending up in the main show will be a result of an action that Bran influences.
Right.
That's my guess. And I don't know if it's going to necessarily be the Bran actor popping out and going, "Hey, put that in the bush over there." I think it might be as simple as a whisper.
You see this like wheelchair like pop out over the back and like roll.
Like, God damn, they didn't have ramps back then. What the hell?
So ridiculous.
He's just stuck on the steps.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it'll probably be something a little bit less than that. It'll be a whisper, like you said, or some sort of sign, message in the fire right before Alicent becomes Melisandre. But right. I do think that there has to be some connection. The weirwoods aren't even supposed to be in King's Landing. Like that doesn't make sense for the book canon. So the fact that they were placed there, it could just be a prop, but it is odd that so many pivotal conversations happen right in front of the weirwoods. They're within the shot. It feels like the weirwood is going to have some sort of connection with, Bloodraven looking back or Bran or somebody. I don't know if they'll have an on-screen appearance per se, but I do think that the weirwoods matter.